Welcome everybody to the strange and scary mysteries of the month, where we find the creepiest true crime stories from all around the world currently going down and lay them out here for you to check out. Thanks so much for tuning in to Scary Mysteries today. Here are the strange and scary mysteries of the month for September 2025. Number 5, unknown number.
A high school girl in Michigan was cyberbullied for more than a year.
And who turned out to be the suspect shocked everyone.
Beale City, Michigan. It's a small town surrounded by farmland where life is simple. Where Friday night football drowns out the worries of the week and where families are supposed to feel safe behind closed doors. But in 2021, something extremely disturbing went down in this town of just a few hundred people. Now before we get into it, just a little warning that this story has some spoilers on a documentary. They'll come in a few minutes, so if you are interested in what you are hearing, then I suggest skipping to the next story and watching Unknown Number, a high school catfish on Netflix. It's truly an insane story. So for over a year, starting in the fall of 2021 in that small town, Lauren Licari and her boyfriend Owen McKinney became the targets of a vicious campaign of harassment. And we're talking hundreds of messages pouring in from an anonymous number, sometimes 30 to 50 a day, each one calculated to humiliate her, to drive her away from her boyfriend, and to push her further into despair. Now at first it looked like classic high school bullying. The text seemed to be coming from a jealous classmate obsessed with Owen. "Hi Lauren, Owen is breaking up with you," one message taunted. Another sneered, "He'll be with me while your lonely, ugly bud is alone." Now some of these were disturbingly graphic and vulgar, way too much for me to say on this platform, which is why this case is crazy. But the cruelest attacks weren't just about humiliation, but they were meant to destroy this young girl literally. And they said things like, "His life would be better if you were dead," and "End yourself now, bish," with the hashtag bang bang. And possibly the creepiest part is whoever this was, well, they knew Lauren and her lifestyle very well, almost too well. Many of the messages used her private nickname, Lo, a name only the closest people in her life would ever know. In a town with just one stoplight, Lauren and Owen worked together to find out who was behind these cruel words, but they couldn't do it. No one ever answered when they tried calling or texting the number back. Got to the point where eventually they decided to break up, hoping the abuse would stop, but it only escalated from there. By January of 2022, well, police were now involved, and months later the FBI joined the case. Special Agent Bradley Peter traced the harassment to a messaging app that disguised numbers. With search warrants, investigators followed the digital trail back to Verizon, and finally, that's when the truth came out. The anonymous bully tormenting Lauren wasn't a classmate, and it wasn't a stranger. It was someone she trusted most, her own mother, 42-year-old Kendra. Now, this was the very same woman who'd been checking in with investigators asking for updates about who could be tormenting her daughter. In December of 2022, police showed up at the door with a warrant. Body cam footage shows the moment she was arrested. Cooperative, almost casual, while Lauren stood in stunned silence beside her. So, why would a mother do this? In interviews, Kendra painted herself as flawed but human. "Realistically," she said, "a lot of us have probably broken the law at some point or another and not gotten caught." She compared her actions to drunk driving, but this wasn't reckless. This was calculated. Some wondered if her motives were darker still. No one in his family recalled how Kendra treated him, cutting up his steak into bite-sized pieces, showing up at his games, even after he and Lauren had broken up. So was she obsessed with him, or was this about control over Lauren? In Netflix's documentary, which dropped this month, it suggests another layer, a kind of cyber Munchausen by proxy. By making her daughter a victim, Kendra ensured that Lauren needed her. It wasn't about protecting her daughter. No, it was about tethering her to her. Kendra herself pointed to trauma in her own past, and watching her daughter entering her teenage years, she claimed, made her terrified of letting go. She told director Sky Borgman, "I was afraid of letting her grow up. I wanted to protect her and keep her safe." And how does doing something like this to your own daughter keep her safe? Well, that's the million-dollar question, and in short, well, it doesn't. Even after hours of interviews, Kendra never gave a clear reason behind her actions. Maybe it was the ultimate form of control, maybe it was punishment, or maybe it was just a cruelty she unleashed that she'll never be able to explain. In March of 2023, Kendra was sentenced to at least 19 months in prison. Meanwhile, Lauren graduated high school. She grew closer to her father, Sean. At first, she stayed in touch with her mom from prison, but by 2024, her feelings had shifted. Measured, distant, cautious. At the end of the doc, as screenshots of those vile text messages flash across the screen, Lauren's voice breaks through, saying, "Now that she's out, I just want her to get the help she needs. So, when we see each other, it doesn't go back to the old ways. I love her more than anything." Number 4. The Burning Man Mystery. The Black Rock Desert in Nevada is known for its surreal landscapes, colossal art installations, and the annual countercultural gathering that's become infamous worldwide, Burning Man. For decades, the event has been a playground for radical self-expression, spirituality, hedonism, and sometimes chaos. And this year, the revelry ended with something darker than any fire ritual or desert storm could conjure. On Saturday night, August 30th, as tens of thousands gathered to watch the towering effigy, the man, go up in flames, a gruesome discovery was made on the side. Around 9:15 p.m., just as the wooden figure lit the night sky, festival goers stumbled across the lifeless body of a man lying in a pool of blood. And he wasn't an accidental casualty of the festival's dust storms or its countless bizarre injuries. This one was clearly murder. While police have not released the actual cause of death, they have since identified the individual as 37-year-old Russian national Vadim Kruglov. Whoever killed him had vanished into the crowd of nearly 70,000 people, blending in seamlessly with burners clad in costumes, masks, or nothing at all. Imagine trying to hunt down a killer in that environment. A city that isn't really a city, built from scratch in the desert and then dismantled within days. Festival goers flagged down a sheriff's deputy, but by then it was too late. The crime scene was cordoned off, yet the desert itself offered little protection. Every hour that passed meant more burners leaving Black Rock City, heading back to their lives across the country and the world, taking with them crucial information that could solve the case. Sheriff Jerry Allen of Pershing County issued a desperate plea. "At this time, no information is too small to disregard. Do not hesitate to contact my office." And he knew that the clock was ticking. Once the festival wrapped up Monday night, the chances of locating witnesses or the killer would dwindle fast. The organizers of Burning Man, known as the Burning Man Project, announced that they were cooperating fully with law enforcement. Their message to attendees was simple: they'll stay out of the way and let the investigation run its course, and to please come forward with any possible information. For longtime burners, the murder cast a shadow over an event already known for extremes. What began in 1987 as a small gathering on a San Francisco beach, where friends torched a wooden effigy as a symbol of rebirth, moved to Nevada in 1990 and grew into a sprawling, week-long spectacle. It's been called a utopia for freedom, but it's also a place where law enforcement has to contend with all sorts of issues, medical emergencies, and countless strange incidents. And this year alone, before the murder even happened, chaos reigned. Dust storms tore through camps here. Authorities intercepted smugglers trying to sneak narcotics into the desert city. And near the start of the week, a couple unexpectedly gave birth inside their camper, with a newborn rushed to the hospital for intensive care. That's right, the woman had no idea she was even pregnant. Like I said, the festival is a breeding ground for bizarre headlines, but none as shocking as what happened to Vadim. So as of now, the mystery stands. Was he a random target, or did someone know him, maybe even follow him into the desert? Was the killer a stranger hiding behind the anonymity of the festival, or someone he trusted? Well, hopefully in time we'll get answers, and we'll be sure to give you an update if they come. Number 3, the murder of Leslie Prier. Bethesda, Maryland is an upscale suburb that sits just outside Washington, D.C., a place where safety is supposed to be a given. But in May of 2001, behind the doors of one home, violence erupted in a way rarely witnessed, and the mystery around it would haunt an entire family for the next 23 years. And the victim in this story was 50-year-old Leslie Prier, a devoted mother, beloved by her 24-year-old daughter Lauren. And she was divorced from her husband Thomas, but the two got along well enough. And on a Monday morning, after Leslie failed to show up to work, her employer, Brett Reedy, tried to reach her. When he couldn't get through, he called Thomas, who had a key to the house, and they headed over for a wellness check. As soon as they entered, a 911 call was placed.
An employee, we just walked in the door, our husband and I, and there's blood in the foyer, and it looks like something possibly happened.
When police arrived at her home, they found Leslie's body in the bathtub. The crime scene was horrific, with blood pooled across the floor, signs of a violent struggle in nearly every single room. Prosecutors would later describe it as an unrelenting attack.
Cause of death, as we know, a contributing factor to that is blunt force trauma.
Leslie had been beaten, strangled, and her head slammed against the foyer floor at least 7 times. And she fought back with everything she had, scratching, clawing, raising her arms in defense, but in the end, her strength wasn't enough to stop her killer, whoever it was. For detectives, the case was frustrating from the start because right there under her fingernails was DNA, clear proof of who had done this to her. But in 2001, the sample didn't match anyone in the national database, and so, despite the violence of the crime, the case went cold. The years dragged on, and for Leslie's daughter Lauren, the trauma never faded. She couldn't bring herself to even shower without clear curtains, terrified of not seeing what might be coming through the door. Even decades later, both she and her best friend admitted to checking behind shower curtains in every new place they went into. The violence in that home didn't just take Leslie's life, it permanently reshaped the lives of those she left behind. And then in 2022, everything changed. Investigators turned to a new tool, forensic genetic genealogy. By analyzing that fingernail DNA and building out family trees, they traced it back to distant relatives in Romania. And from there, one name emerged, Gliger. That name led detectives to a man they remembered from the earliest days of the case, Eugene Gliger, the former high school boyfriend of Leslie's daughter. The relationship had ended 2 years before the killing, but now, 2 decades later, his DNA looked like the missing link. Proving it, though, would take precision. In 2024, investigators staged an airport sting. As Gliger returned from a trip abroad, customs officers quietly diverted him into a secondary screening room. Inside there were water bottles strategically placed, and when Gliger drank from one, he left behind exactly what police needed, a DNA sample. From there, testing confirmed it. The blood under Leslie's fingernails belonged to him. Eugene was arrested in June of 2024, more than 2 decades after Leslie's murder. When he finally faced a Montgomery County courtroom, prosecutors laid out the horrific details once more. But one thing was still missing: the motive. Gliger's attorney painted a picture of a drunken, drug-fueled night gone wrong. They claimed he had no intent to kill, no memory of even being inside Leslie's home, but this angle felt like nothing more than a self-serving excuse. So why did he do it? Well, Gliger has never offered up the truth. In July of 2024, the now 45-year-old man was sentenced to 22 years in prison for second-degree murder. And justice had finally arrived, but for Leslie's family, it was a hollow victory. And nothing could bring her back. And nothing could erase the nightmares, the trauma, or the fear that lingered long after her death. Number 2, the Montauk Yacht Club. Montauk, New York is one of those fancy summer spots where celebs go to escape that New York City life, and the wealthiest elites among us go to party in white linen pants and sip Cristal. The world here lives in a bubble. In the early hours of August 5th of 2025, the glitz of the Hamptons gave way to something darker. Because on a yacht docked at the Montauk Yacht Club, the lifeless body of 33-year-old Martha Nolan O'Slatera was found, leaving behind questions that have only grown louder with time. Martha was making her way up the ranks. Born in Carlow, Ireland, she had moved to New York chasing opportunity, eventually carving out a niche for herself in the world of fashion. She launched a brand called East by East, a line of swimsuits and accessories that caught enough attention to land her a pop-up at the famous Gurney's Resort. She was ambitious, creative, and unwilling to settle, but behind the glossy Instagram photos, well, her life was shifting in ways few realized. Earlier this year, she had filed for divorce from her husband, Sam Ryan, and had begun seeing somebody new, a relationship that, according to Irish reports, wasn't without its complications. The last night of her life, Martha told this mystery man that she would be taking an Uber home. She mentioned she was meeting someone in connection with her business, but she, of course, never made it there. Instead, she was found unconscious at around midnight on a 50 to 60-foot yacht docked off Star Island Road. Whoever owned the vessel hasn't been made public, and officials have been tight-lipped, saying only that the Montauk Yacht Club is cooperating with police. When paramedics arrived, attempts at CPR failed, and Martha was pronounced dead at the scene. The Suffolk County PD confirmed her identity later that day, though the cause of death remains unresolved. Authorities said an autopsy showed no evidence of violence. Toxicology results, as of the making of this, are still pending, but her family doesn't believe she was a drug user. Their attorney, Arthur Adela, made that point clear, saying, "The circumstances surrounding this are far from typical." He noted that Martha's family wants to know who she was with that night and whether she could have been given something unknowingly. The mystery is deepened by the silence around the yacht itself. Who invited her aboard? Who else was present? Who was the business person she was meeting? And why has so little been revealed about the series of events on the night in question? For Martha's family back in Ireland, the grief has only been compounded by confusion. Adala confirmed that Suffolk County homicide detectives are treating this as an active and thorough investigation. The family is concerned enough to publicly raise the possibility of foul play, including the idea that she may have been drugged. At this stage, though, nothing has been confirmed. On August 20th, Martha was laid to rest at the Cathedral of the Assumption in her hometown of Carlow. The young woman with talent, drive, and promise brought back across the Atlantic not to celebrate her success, but to mourn her sudden death. The official cause of death remains pending, but what is clear is that Martha's story is far from over. Number 1, the Madbury tragedy. On the night of August 18th, 2025, in Madbury, New Hampshire, police got a call for a welfare check to a suburban home after neighbors called about hearing some suspicious, loud bangs. When they knocked, they got no answer, and so they forced their way inside, and that's when they found the grisly scene. 4 bodies were discovered.
Authorities say that they received a 911 call just before 8:30 last night that several people were dead.
34-year-old Emily Long, her 48-year-old husband Ryan, their 8-year-old son Parker, and 6-year-old daughter Ryan. All were dead from gunshot wounds. The only survivor was the couple's toddler, found unharmed in the home, an innocent child left behind in a house of horrors. At first, the tragedy looked like a devastating case of despair. Ryan, the father, had recently been diagnosed with brain cancer, and it was terminal. Emily had spoken openly on TikTok about her struggles with depression over this, posting under a bio that called her a brain cancer wife. Her videos seemed like desperate cries for help, and that's because they were.
At least when he was going through radiation, I know that it's been hard on him. I know that it's been exhausting. His brain is swollen. He feels so many symptoms.
But there was also more to it than that, because just days after the bodies were found, new revelations added a disturbing twist. Emily hadn't only been struggling with her husband's illness, but she was accused of stealing more than $660,000 from her employer in the 2 years leading up to the killings.
Police report detailing theft from his company.
Derek Fisher, the owner of Wingett's, a local chicken wing chain where Emily works, says he discovered the theft after his accountant noticed a trail of suspicious checks, handwritten and deposited directly into her bank account. Over $660,000 was taken. The scheme had allegedly begun in January of 2023 and continued until the business finally caught on in the summer of 2025. Fisher later told reporters he'd been hesitant to go to the authorities because he knew about Ryan's cancer. He wanted to give Emily time. But eventually he felt like he had no other option than to go to law enforcement. And he did that just weeks before the killings. When news broke of Emily's death and the tragedy she brought upon her family, Fisher's focus shifted away from the stolen money, and his concern was for the child who survived, believing that whatever remained should go to support him, since he bore no responsibility for what had happened. And as shocking as the financial crime was, officials emphasized that it should not be viewed as the sole explanation. The New Hampshire Attorney General's office urged the public not to assume that the murders stemmed from any single issue, noting that investigators were uncovering multiple concerns with the household. So what truly drove Emily Long to end the lives of her husband and children? Was it the crushing weight of her husband's terminal illness, the strain of concealing massive theft, or is there even more to the story? The full truth may never be known. What is certain, though, is the devastation left behind. A community in shock, a toddler who grew up without parents or siblings, and a sobering reminder that even in seemingly quiet towns, hidden darkness can erupt in the blink of an eye with unthinkable violence. So there were the strange and scary mysteries of the month for September 2025. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling like getting into the spooky season soon, then might I recommend the movie we here at Scary Mysteries made called An Angry Boy. It's a dark revenge thriller, available everywhere you stream a movie. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys over in the next one.